Welcome back to the channel. It's Thursday. It's time to look at some recent sales on eBay for the vintage collection. TVC, if you want to talk dirty to me. Lots of interesting sales. I know a lot of you are really unpacking and setting up your Cantina. The Haslab Cantina, it really does look nice based on some of the photos I've seen on Facebook. And of course, a lot of the figures are being resold on eBay, so we'll take a look at that. And yes, I do know that the final Haslab total for the Lat gunship passed 10,000, so you guys are going to get Trebor Coleman, or whatever his name is, Coleman Trebor. And I have to make these videos like in advance, and I was releasing it on Thursday. That information came out on Thursday. I'd already uploaded the video, so I can't just like change the video once it's been made. So yes, I'm aware that Coleman Trebor has been unlocked, and congrats. That's awesome for you guys. I would imagine that the other Jedi will be like a 2-pack, similar to Sabine and Chopper coming in that 2-pack. I would think they'll do the same thing with those other 2 Jedi and make it a, you know, Hasbro Pulse exclusive or something. So we'll see what happens there. And thanks as always to those of you that watch. I've got the deluxe add-on piece, which obviously is that hallway type thing, and you know, the chairs and things like that. So this is an item that people have asked about, like how much should I pay for it, you know, and the prices are all over the map. So I understand why I'm getting that question, because on the low end I found 175, on the upper end, this is all within a day of each other. On the upper end, 220. So 175 or 220. That's pretty wild. But that's kind of like the going range for just the deluxe add-on set for the Haslab Cantina. So for those of you that are still looking to maybe add that for your diorama, I would aim for the closer to the 175 number if you can. The 4 figures together from, or excuse me, the 5 figures together from the Cantina, the Haslab Cantina, that you can see here, the Tonica sisters, and then Greedo and Warher, and I forget the other guy's name, Nabrun Leeds. So these 5 together sold for $450, which it's actually not a bad deal, because individually Greedo, Nabrun Leeds, and Warher go for about $80, give or take. And I've got a couple of data points there on a couple of them. And then the Tonica sisters, they can sell as high as like $150, $160 a piece. Although I did find the 2 lowest sales for this video coming up in a second. So if you think about it, so let's say even $150 for the Tonica sisters, that's $300 there, plus the $80 a piece for the other 3, that puts you at $240. I mean, that's, you know, getting pretty close to that $450 number. If you want them kind of case fresh like this, where they haven't even been removed from being packed in. And shout out to Hasbro on that. I mean, that's a pretty nice feature there, that they really protect the cards pretty nicely. So I'm glad that they do that kind of stuff now versus the old days. You remember like the carbon freezing chamber and that stormtrooper that was packed inside, and like 3/4 of them were just scratched up once you opened them up. Same with Yak Vase from the Katana sail bars. That would have some defects to it. So it's nice to see that they're trying to take care of these carded figures as best they can. But anyway, if you're looking for all of them, $450, try to aim for underneath that number, $400, ideally in an auction. But, you know, and to buy it now, $450 seems to be about the going rate from the number of sales I've seen. Individually, again, you know, War is going in an auction, $80. $80-ish is about the going rate for that one. Here's another one that sold at $76 plus $750 shipping, which again gets you over $80. So that's the number you can count on. Same with Nabrun Leeds and Greedo. I didn't pull up any Greedo sales, but they're all going in that $70 to $80 range. This is my favorite one, Nabrun Leeds. I think that looks awesome. That just looks really great there. That card image is hot too. So anyway, those are the sales there. Now the low, and here's another one at $77.49. This seller had 2 of them. And then the lowest I could find for the Tonica sisters was this auction, $116.50 in an auction plus $750 shipping. So that gets you about, you know, $120, $125-ish. And then Seni Tonica sold for $114 plus $750 shipping. So Again, and buy it now, I'm seeing as high as 160, but you're already starting to see the prices come down, right? That's kind of the number I'd aim for right now. And I still think they're going to come down even more. But, some of y'all disagree with that. You think they're going to continue to go up. But I think that these data points show that that's definitely not the case when they've already come down from even last week's sales. And I think that'll continue, but we'll see, I guess. Next up, I've got some TVC 1.0 sales. JFK Solver. I've never bought from this seller before, but they have over 4,000 completed transactions, 100% positive feedback. And he or she has been selling a lot of really nice items, both TVC as well as vintage Kenner, graded, ungraded, you name it. So you might want to add this seller to your watch list because there's been a lot of consistent auctions and buy it nows for both TVC as well as vintage Kenner. So here was a Clone Commander Cody punched example, one little nick in the at the upper corner there, but that one sold for $71 plus $8 shipping. And then he also had a Slave Leia VC64 punched. This is the Revenge of the Jedi, and it has the paperwork inside. So this was the retail release. It does not seem to have the Boba Fett offer on there, but it could have been removed. Who knows? But this was definitely the retail release, obviously, since it has the paperwork inside the blister. That one sold for $229 in an auction. And I wanted to show this one only because for those of you that do the diorama for the new Jabba the Hutt action playset, or even, I guess, maybe the Book of Boba Fett throne room with the Fett Bib Fortuna. This is a Legacy Collection Build-A-Droid that is from Jabba's palace. He had like a very fleeting moment in Return of the Jedi, if I remember. It was like a half a second. But this is the droid that you eventually make if you use the parts that were found in a number of different Legacy Collection mint on cards. I don't know if you remember that, but on the backs there would be like, little pieces of a droid that would be on the back of the card, and it's kind of attached at the bottom. So this is the final BG J38 Build-A-Droid from the Legacy Collection. And so I was just showing this because it does go for a lot of money. I think we've covered this one or two other times in the past, but this one sold for $198. So this is kind of like a weird mishmash of 8D8 looking parts, and then kind of looks like Zero with his face there. Or maybe it's like a little bit of Zero, a little bit of Zuckuss, I don't know. But a little bit of Forlom going on, a little bit of just like a weird praying mantis mosquito. So anyway, that's the final Build-A-Droid, and that one does go for a lot of money when it's 100% complete like that. So that one sold for $198. Back to the TVC, I've got a Jar Jar Binks in Carbonite. This was a pretty clean looking example. It did have one little nick in the upper left there above the ages 4 and up. Yeah, you can see it on the back as well. It's very minor, but it's there. A little bit of card wave, very slight edge wear to it, but overall pretty clean example for Jar Jar Binks in Carbonite in an auction. $425 on that one. So again, probably not perfect, probably like an 85 at best grade, but that's probably one of the lower price points we've seen for the Jar Jar Binks in Carbonite from that Lost Line box set from SDCC or Celebrate. It might have been Celebration, I can't remember. Next up is one of the holy grails for retail releases for the Vintage Collection. This is the alternate image VC20 Canadian Yoda. You guys obviously know this one if you collect the Vintage Collection. It's got that multi-language name pill on the front there. Very, very cool with the alternate image from The Empire Strikes Back. The Jedi Master, Le Maître Jedi, El Maestro Jedi, and O Mestra Jedi. So I don't know what all those different languages are, but it's got a lot of them. And then, of course, it's got the Attack of the Clones version of Yoda packed in. So none of it makes sense whatsoever in terms of the final production figure. You got an ESB picture, you've got a Return of the Jedi logo, and then you've got an Attack of the Clones Yoda figure. But it goes for a lot of money because it is the Canadian example with the alternate image. That one sold for $621. It was a punched example, and that's kind of the going rate right now. It's obviously come down a lot from the heyday, but unpunched, I would say $800, somewhere in that ballpark. And then punched would be $600-ish. So that's about right, $621 on that one. And then a good friend of mine, Star Wars Fan 29. Now, he's in the UK, and I don't think he ships to the US. But if you are in the UK or thereabouts and you're watching this video, you might want to keep an eye out for this seller over in the UK. It's a friend of mine, and he's selling off some of his items, not just vintage collection, but lots of other modern toy lines and modern Star Wars figures, non-Kenner, non-vintage Kenner. And so he's got a lot of really, really nice items. And he had a few auctions for graded TVC that ended here this weekend. First is an uncirculated 90 Vidane skiff pilot. That one sold for a song and a dance, 48 pounds, which is $65 US. Uncirculated 90 gold level from UKG. He had the Imperial Assault Tank Commander. That is a UKG 90 gold level. That one sold for 62 pounds, which is 84 bucks. I mean, over here in the US, that's about what you got to pay for one of these ungraded. And this one was a UKG 90 gold. So that was a great deal there. We had the Kitaba Skiff Guard, the original issue VC 56. This is the unpunched with the brown bandana. And obviously the red bandana is the hard one for us to find over here. Over there, this is the UKG 95. So this was a very high grade example and sold for 70 pounds, which is $94. I mean, I remember when this was going for 150 bucks ungraded at one point. And they have just fallen off, obviously, since a lot of reissues have happened. And other skiff guards have made their way to collectors' hands too. But one that's held its value pretty well is Antok Merrick, at least over here. This was a UKG 90 gold and sold for $72.50, which is $98 US. And again, that's about what we pay, maybe a little less than that, 85 bucks for one of these ungraded. So if you're in the UK, keep an eye out for this seller's listings. He is a trusted seller, and he's a friend of the channel. And he's got a few others here. He's got Luke Crate. That one's another tough one to find. Uncirculated 85 as well. That one sold for 88 pounds, which is $119 US. And then he had a UKG 95% uncirculated as well. Han Solo Stormtrooper VC 143. That one sold for $125 US. So you guys get some good deals over there, because we had one of these, also UKG 95. It wasn't even uncirculated designation, and it sold for over $150 over here in the US. So you guys are getting some good deals on a lot of these graded TVC. Next up, some other graded ones. We had a foil Magna Guard AFA 8.5. That one sold over here in the States for $180. FET offer foil logo Magna Guard. And this was one that I sent out to my Patreons. This was a 9.5 grade Hoth Rebel Soldier VC, I forgot the number on that one, VC 120. And I sent that out to my Patreons, and one of y'all did buy it. So thank you for using the affiliate link, whoever it was that bought this one. I think it might have been Jason. So thank you, buddy, for doing that. That one sold for $113. And again, that was an AFA 9.5, very, very high grade. And we had the Jedi Survivor version of the Magna Guard, uncirculated 9.0 fan channel 3-pack exclusive. And again, I would think that for those two Jedi that did not, the Jedis that were in tiers 2 and 3 that did not unlock as part of the Haslab gunship, I would think they'll do something like this, like a fan channel 2-pack or, Hasbro Direct 2-pack, something like that. Very similar to what they've done for some of these other multi-packs. But anyway, this fan channel 3-pack exclusive 9.0 uncirculated sold for $130. Same seller also had Jedi Master Indara. That's one you don't see graded very much, just given how lackluster the reception was for the Acolyte. But this was a 9.0 gold level. That one sold for $100 even. And then probably my favorite villain in recent times from Star Wars content, Deidre Miro. I absolutely loved her. I honestly think she deserves some kind of Emmy or something. I just loved her character. I just thought she was awesome. But this was a 9.0 gold level. That one sold for $100 as well. And that is all I've got for this edition of the Vintage Collection Market Update. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back soon.